Hey, what's up, 180Fit? So I want to talk about gluten and if it's ruining your diet. And you might have heard of a gluten-free diet and why a lot of individuals are actively trying to move gluten from their diet. But in case you don't know what gluten is, it's a protein normally found in barley, wheat, and malt. And for some people, it can be quite painful to actually digest. And among them are those with celiac disease, an autoimmune disorder, which badly and permanently damages the nutrient-absorbing structures found in the small intestine. As time passes, gluten consumption really destroys the ability of the body to absorb these nutrients. Since there's no known cure for celiac disease, people are affected with the condition are actually eliminating gluten and following a gluten-free diet. Now, following a gluten-free diet does have its consequences, so unless you really fall underneath the categories I'm going to kind of describe, I don't recommend it. Because people with celiac disease aren't the only ones who are badly affected by the consumption of gluten. There's other ones. If you have a gluten intolerance, likely known as a non-celiac gluten sensitivity, if you belong to either two, the gluten is really bad for you. And so today, this video is going to really help you figure out why gluten consumption can be bad, especially if you're gluten intolerant or a celiac patient. Okay, we'll also go through today 10 different telltale signs on how gluten is currently damaging your health if you fall into one of these categories. So a scientific review was published in New England Journal of Medicine revealed the consumption of gluten can possibly trigger 55 different diseases. As alarming as it sounds, it actually turns out to be true, but there are other concerns if you eliminate gluten, because then you are low on, you're not getting the nutrients you need. It can actually lead to obesity because of foods you have to cut out. It has a whole other factor to it, but I think it's relevant to bring this up. There are in fact quite a number of conditions caused by eating gluten. If you have one of the two, you're going to find that you might be more fatigued, you might have inflammatory bowel disease, even osteoporosis. Gluten can cause inflammation, so if you deal with inflammation, it might be beneficial for you to look at a gluten-free diet as well. So it can have a reverse effect on, on your digestive system and joints. And most people who suffer from inflammation due to gluten intake tend to be focused on treating the condition on the surface level. They do this by taking medication to reduce the symptoms. Unfortunately, they do it regularly as they weren't able to get to the root of the problem. I think it's important to really tackle the root of the problem. If you have a chronic health issue, even if you don't, you might want to listen and see if you fall into these categories. If you do, you might want to try eliminating gluten from your diet. Now, I'm not a doctor. I would say go get checked out, get this officially diagnosed if you are. But let's really dive into if you are dealing with digestive issues or just feel really tired and fatigued. Here are 10 telltale signs that it's time to stop. Number one, digestive issues. Occasionally suffering from constipation, diarrhea, other digestive issues might seem normal. However, either one of them happens almost too often, it could be sign that gluten is wrecking your body. Not surprisingly, it's also common symptom experience with, of course, gluten intolerance and celiac disease. In some cases, they even have a partially pale and unpleasant bowel, mainly because the condition prevents their body from absorbing nutrients properly. According to research, gluten consumption causes the digestive issues by disturbing the barriers of the intestine and thus allowing harmful substances to move through towards the blood system. Around 14% of Americans suffer from the so-called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which causes all sorts of digestive issues. The consumption of gluten makes the symptom even worse than before. In some cases, it may even be the cause of IBS. Around 50% of gluten-intolerant individuals suffer from diarrhea on a regular basis, while 25% of them suffer from constipation. While this is common to gluten-intolerant and celiac-affected individuals, those who have been consuming foods with on a large amount of gluten, maybe you would consume a lot of gluten, can also be negatively affected. If you experience such symptoms, you might want to swap, and stop the consumption of foods with gluten as possible. Really limited. Left unattained, it can lead to some serious issues such as dehydration, fatigue, and loss of electrolytes in the body. So how does this happen? Upon eating gluten-containing foods, it moves through your stomach, then the small intestine. From there, gluten is broken into the Gojen, with the help of the enzymes known as the tissue transglutaminase. I have a hard time with these words, you guys. TTG. Once broken down, it then moves through your digestive tract. From there, your digestive system will help with the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. I'll review the potential harm it may cause to absorb in your body. So if you're not gluten tolerant, it will be directly absorbed to your body. However, if you're sensitive to gluten, the protein will be considered a dangerous substance, okay? And your digestive system will produce antibodies to attack it. The problem is that they attack the TTG as well, thereby causing a microvilli in your intestine to become damaged. So over time, it'll start breaking down, tearing up the walls of your intestine, letting food particles and other harmful substances into your bloodstream. If this happens, you'll start experiencing digestive issues such as constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and malnutrition. So sign number 2, skin problems. Intolerance to gluten doesn't just affect your digestive tract, it also affects your skin. If you're starting to experience skin conditions which you never had before, it might be a sign of gluten. It's starting to take its toll on the body. According to research, 7 out of 10 celiac patients, afflicted individuals were experiencing symptoms on their skin. There's actually a variety of them, but most commonly linked to gluten is the dermatitis, herpetiformis. So that is gluten-caused skin condition, which you experience one of the itchiest rashes you could ever have. It's really a painful rash, which is found in 15 to 25% of individuals who have the disease. If you have the symptoms, you'll notice like lesions, which appear on any part of your body, mostly the knees, elbows, and the butt. Fortunately, this only happens to individuals who are really diagnosed or undiagnosed with the disease. So another common symptom is very dry, flaky skin. Although it's still not clear whether the constipation of gluten directly causes dry skin, some physicians believe it's poor nutrient absorption by the disease can steal the nutrients which your skin is supposed to have, thereby leading to very dry skin. In some cases, it can be remedied by resorting to a gluten-free diet with, of course, you have to get your nutrients in other ways. So the key is, if you do that, then you need to really make sure you're following a gluten-free diet to a way that you're getting all the nutrients you need. I'll make a video on what a gluten-free diet in a healthy way looks like. So lastly, there's another skin condition which causes your skin to develop like red and scaly plaques. According to several studies, regular gluten consumption is strongly linked to the development of this condition. Those who are diagnosed with it have huge amounts of antibodies in their bloodstreams, which only suggests that their bodies are reacting to gluten in their diets, regardless if they're diagnosed with it or not. While it's not clear whether gluten is directly caused to all these different ones that I mentioned in skin disease, there's some reports that show people who follow a gluten-free diet were able to experience significant improvement in their skin symptoms, even if they have a gluten disease. Sign number 3, recurring migraine. So a lot of people suffer from headache or migraine every once in a while. In fact, it's a common condition affected by 10 to 12% of the Western population. However, if migraine appears too often, it can be a cause for concern, especially gluten intolerant. Interestingly, a number of studies revealed that those with gluten intolerance are more prone to migraines compared to others. If you have migraines that occur regularly without a clear cause, it might be because you're sensitive to gluten. You might wonder, what is the connection between gluten and migraine? For some people, gluten could trigger a migraine. There have been a number of studies confirmed the connection between celiac disease and migraine. Recurring migraine can be easily an early indicator of celiac disease, or those suffering from it are more likely to experience recurring migraines. According to research, this condition, the connection between the disease and the migraine is due to the increased gut permeability and inflammation. As your gut starts leaking inflammatory compounds toward the bloodstream, they can easily find their way into the brain, thereby causing the migraine. Rough stuff, you guys. The connection is so strong that some researchers even recommend that individuals who suffer from recurring migraines should consult their doctors or check with the possibility of having this disease. Surprisingly, this connection isn't just exclusive to a celiac disease, it's also found with those who have IBS. Therefore, only a few studies conducted to address the issue. Fortunately, they did find that having gluten-free diet can significantly reduce or even eliminate the occurrence of migraines. If you suffer from migraines, I suggest you look at how much gluten you're actually getting. Although they are still in their preliminary phases, it seems the results of gluten-free diet showed a massive decline, both the duration intensity of migraines. I'm someone who gets migraines. Like, if you do, anything to ease it up, right? Further research is still required to confirm, but the results suggest that having gluten-free diet can be a major help to relieve those migraines and headaches without relying on real expensive medications. So sign number 4 is chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. So feeling of tiredness is a very common occurrence and is not linked to really any medical condition at all. However, if you get very tired on a constant basis, it's likely you have an underlying condition. One could be gluten intolerance. People who are gluten intolerant may experience more fatigue, chronic fatigue, especially with taking foods that have gluten. According to studies, around 60 to 82% of gluten intolerant intolerant patients suffer from constant fatigue regularly. In addition to that, gluten intolerance can lead to iron deficiency, anemia, which is another cause for tiredness. So if you wake up constantly tired, even after you get a good amount of sleep, chances are that you're gluten intolerant. Therefore, regardless of how much you sleep, you won't be able to get enough rest due to the effects of gluten. The reason is because your body ends up expending all of its energy to attack the allergen, which is gluten in this case, thus causing you to be drained of all your energy and results in fatigue. If you experience fatigue or a foggy mind, likewise known as brain fog, you may have what they know as non-celiac gluten sensitivity, perhaps an undiagnosed disease. In some cases, chronic fatigue can be a symptom of even serious condition, and which one, of course, is one of these diseases. If you think you have an allergy due to gluten, the only way you can really confirm this is through an official diagnosis from your doctor. So various tests can be determined if it's due to gluten. Afterwards, depending on the severity of your allergy, you may have to limit or eliminate the consumption of gluten. Meanwhile, if you're not sensitive to gluten, you shouldn't experience any constant fatigue or a feeling of tiredness from consuming, and therefore, unless you're allergic to gluten, you shouldn't feel sleepy on an entire basis. You can always try, go gluten-free for a week and see if it makes a difference. Step number 5, or sign 5, joint pain. Joint and muscle pain can be by a number of reasons. One theory states that people suffering from celiac disease have an innate oversensitivity to nervous system. As a result, they have a lower threshold of activating sensory neurons, which lead to joint and muscle pain. Aside from that, exposure to gluten can also lead to inflammation in people with gluten intolerance. This inflammation can cause a wide variety of pain. That includes pain in the muscles, joints. Recent studies have shown that there are possible between non-pathological joint pain and gluten. So how does this happen? If you have celiac disease or gluten intolerance, you consume gluten, your immune system will jump into action, thus leading to inflammation. This inflammation can have an impact on your organs, soft tissues. Although you may not see noticeable signs of inflammation, like swelling and redness, you may know some other symptoms like joint pain. You may not realize it, but gluten can actually cause serious damage in your body, especially if you have arthritis or even if you don't. Fortunately, you can stop suffering from chronic joint pain by limiting gluten in your diet. This is especially helpful if you increase your energy. It also helps increase energy levels and trim down body fat and even clear up your skin. Hey, bonus. Sign 6, autoimmune diseases. So if you're suffering from an autoimmune disease and you want to get better and reverse your disease progression, if possible, from a medical perspective, these two can be achieved simply by knowing the root cause of your condition. According to research and medical practitioners, gluten is one of the many possible causes. There's actually a well-known connection between autoimmune diseases and gluten. Therefore, a lot of healthcare professionals recommend that you stick with a gluten-free diet if you're suffering from that. By now, you've probably heard that with any form of autoimmune condition, you should limit gluten from the diet at all costs. You might have also heard people think that gluten doesn't pose a problem. Like a lot of issues, the truth actually lies somewhere in between. A recent publication study has examined the connection between the autoimmune disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. According to the study, people who have non-celiac gluten sensitivity have an increased incidence of autoimmune conditions than those without. The study also looked at patients with celiac and those who with non-celiac gluten sensitivity and normal individuals. Also consider the levels of autoimmune disease for each test patient. So researchers found that the incidence of autoimmune thyroid disease was similar to both those who have the celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity group. Therefore, there was an increase incident which was the same for the two groups, and gluten seems to be a major factor. Another interesting finding was the levels of another autoimmune marker, which is called the ANA, anti-nuclear antibodies, was higher in people with NCGS than those with celiac. So specifically, 24% of subjects who have NCGS experience levels of the ANA, which is indexes autoimmunity, compared to only 20% of those with celiac. Why is this so? One possible reason could be that following a gluten-free lifestyle is less recommended for those with non-celiac gluten sensitivities than those with celiac. Therefore, there might be more people who consume gluten and are non-celiac gluten sensitive compared to those who have celiac. This only means that people who have NCGS have higher risks of experiencing autoimmune conditions by any foods that contain gluten. Now, if you have autoimmune disease, consuming gluten can pose a serious threat due to the phenomenon that is known as molecular mimicry. Each time your body is exposed to any form of invader gluten, in this case, your immune system will try to memorize its structure to allow it to create the perfect defense, right? The sad thing is our immune system can't perfectly recognize the molecular structure. As long as it has a similar structure, we'll consider an invader, and the immune system will try to attack it. Gluten, which is quite a large protein, happens to be a similar structure to that of our body, some of our body's tissues, especially the thyroid. In people with autoimmune thyroid disease, each time they consume gluten, their immune system will send antibodies to destroy it. However, since gluten and their thyroid gland look similar, some of these antibodies will mistakenly end up attacking the thyroid. There are also several other proteins like casein, which share the same molecular structure of that gluten. Due to molecular mimicry, each time you eat dairy, your body will think you just consumed gluten and initiate the immune reaction. So it's dangerous. Sign 7, hormonal imbalance. Aside from messing up your brain, bones, muscles, skin, digestive tract, and neurological system, gluten sensitivity can also have a negative impact on your endocrine system, which is responsible for your hormones. Specifically, gluten puts stress on the adrenal glands, which result in hormonal imbalance. The adrenal glands are situated on the top of your kidneys and are the ones responsible for a lot of your bodily actions. So mainly they give you energy and keep your immune system strong, maintain your weight and control your sleep quality, maintain a stable mood, keep various allergies at bay, help with hormonal imbalance, and more. Also, since they are stress buffering glands in your body, they essentially help you cope with your daily stress by producing hormones. In the event your adrenaline glands get exhausted, your body systems will start to break down. They'll stop functioning normally, causing them unable to repair themselves. This also causes your body to function slowly, leading to depression, fatigue, loss of libido, there we go, and more. Once you undergo chronic stress, your adrenal glands will start producing stress hormones, okay, and stage for sex hormone. Stress instead of sex hormones. That's a rough stretch, you guys. However, if you have gluten intolerance but still continue eating foods that contain gluten, your adrenal glands will suffer from chronic stress due to an ongoing intestinal inflammation. This can lead to chronic adrenal exhaustion, which is a major factor in certain conditions like arthritis, depression, fatigue, fibromyalgia, hormonal imbalance. And unfortunately, while gluten sensitivity and the accompanying stress on the adrenal glands is a common occurrence, it's really diagnosed. Due to this, a lot of people suffer since they are not tested properly for this condition. But why exactly are your adrenal glands affected if you continue to consume gluten without being gluten sensitive? This can be summed up to because the answer would lie in your adrenal glands are quite sensitive and unstable blood sugar. In case you're wondering, stable blood sugar is derived from eating healthy, and sometimes it can help to eat a gluten-free diet if you've been consuming a lot of gluten or really lower it down. If you're gluten intolerant, gluten is basically poison, okay? Therefore, regularly consuming gluten can create unstable blood sugar, which can turn to places to a tremendous amount of stress on your adrenal glands. Since adrenal glands are responsible for a wide variety of bodily function, simply removing gluten from your diet is not enough to restore their original function. They have to be at rest using dietary program to help restore original health. This also explains why most gluten-sensitive individuals will suffer from the following: asthma, fatigue, allergies, joint pain and aches, frequent illnesses, sleep issues, unexpected weight gain, and migraines. As a result, even if you're diagnosed with an onset gluten sensitivity, follow a gluten-free diet, you might still continue suffering some symptoms brought on by the adrenal stress. If you can't find a specialist who works with restoring your adrenal glands, original health and function, then I would say find one. Whatever you have to do, really find someone who can really do that for you and be able to test it. So find a specialist, a doctor who really knows what they're doing. Sign number 8, frequent mood swings beyond PMS. This might sound surprising, but your digestive system is literally considered your second brain. And as such, the ability to influence your mood, behavior, both your brain and your gut work alongside each other and are connected via the vagus nerve. As it turns out, serotonin, which is known for its feel-good neurotransmitter, has a huge effect on your mood, actually has a massive concentration to your gut, so the so-called second brain. This might explain why a lot of researchers keep finding a connection between the imbalance of bacteria in the gut and depression. Additionally, more and more start using nutrition to help treat the condition rather than medication, which doesn't seem to help at all. So here's another surprising factor. Around 100 trillion bacteria thrive in your body. That's 10 times the total number of your cells. Ideally, the ratio between the bacteria inside your gut is 85% good and 15% bad. As such, keeping your gut flora nourished is important to keep the production of your serotonin at optimal level, which in turn can help you protect your mental health. Your gut bacteria are easily affected by your lifestyle. Eating a lot of foods that contain gluten, sugar, can cause them to suffer. In general, gluten, sugar, as well as other processed foods damage your gut health by destroying good bacteria and nourishing bad bacteria. By regularly consuming gluten, the number of good bacteria in your gut will significantly decrease. This can lead to a number of symptoms such as bad breath, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, yeast infection, dandruff, asthma, joint pain, mood swings, tons of stuff there. This can also cause you to crave more gluten-rich foods. The best way we can solve this is to eliminate the mood swings by following a gluten-free diet and completely eliminate gluten from your lifestyle, at least for a period of time if you're not gluten intolerant. Sign number 9, dramatic weight gain. Although there's no evidence that removing gluten from your diet can lead to weight loss, following a gluten-free diet may prompt you to eat more unprocessed foods like fruit and vegetables. Also, those with gluten-free diet are more likely to make healthier food choices simply because they are aware of the importance of reading food labels. That aside, it's already been confirmed that that gluten can cause weight gain, but yet also if you're not here's the thing, there's studies on both sides, okay? So there's the ones that you can cause, but also if you are not gluten intolerant and you go on a gluten-free diet, it can also cause weight gain because there's certain foods you can't eat that you need to be eating. So the study was conducted, that I'm talking about for the one weight gain, was a Brazilian research team, published in the January 2013 Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry. Attempt to examine the differences between gluten-fed rats and rats that have gluten-free diet in terms of the biochemical markers. The aim was to put an end to some called wheat belly controversy that confirmed whether or not gluten causes weight gains. In this study, both groups of rats were subject to high-fat diets. However, one was gluten-free while the other had was 4.5 gluten in their food. So they still had some. It turns out the group with gluten-free exhibited a significant weight loss with no trace of lipid fat exertion. So what happened is the gluten-free exhibited a significant weight loss with no trace of the lipid fat. So according to Green Med Info founder Sarah, instead of calories, gluten is actually a major factor in obesity continuing. So like if you're already obese, it might be beneficial for you to go on a gluten diet. Also, the fact that both groups were given high-fat diets and the gluten-free group experienced weight loss without, extreme lipids also means that the diets, the fat-free diets with the aim of losing weight are just a fraud, quite honestly. He also recommends avoiding gluten-rich foods, especially, weight to find out gluten consumption could be an underlying cause for unexpected weight gain. It might be beneficial for you to try it for a little bit of time and see if that helps in your weight loss. But like I said, I'm very cautious to say blanket statements because I know that there's the consequences to going on a gluten-free diet too. We have a video on the negative effects of it as well, so stay tuned for that one. But I want to kind of unpack this for you so if you do think you might have it, you can know, like you can go to your doctor and get tested, or at least give it a try and see what's going on. Last one, number 10, neurological issues. The consumption of gluten can negatively affect your neurological system. Additionally, people who have celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity report symptoms of brain fog, migraines, and peripheral neuropathy. So also a number of neurological conditions like anxiety, depression are also common. Lastly, there are hints at conditions like bipolar, schizophrenia might be affected. However, there's still no solid evidence as to who might be affected in the following gluten-free diet and if it can actually help. A recent study of 70% of patients with gluten sensitivity had social phobias, while 52% had depression, and these are basically the neurological manifestation related to celiac disease and NCGS. However, there are a few others. Another study conducted by Italian researchers found that 22.5% of individuals who have gluten sensitivity tend to experience depression, migraines, neuropathy, epilepsy. So it was determined that the immune system played a part in 42% of patients, as the researchers were able to direct antibody reactivity to neural antigens. So interesting, the ones whose antibodies reacted to neural antigens didn't have any neurological problems. This means that said the problems might somewhat take time to manifest. Also, if patients follow a traditional gluten-free diet, so I seem to see the results still revealed the same antibodies. This only means that simply eliminating barley and wheat didn't change the way the immune system responded to gluten sensitivity. The research also demonstrated the effects of consuming gluten on your body. In this case, those with celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity developed a number of symptoms which affect the nervous system, like depression, headaches, seizures, more. Also, following a traditional gluten-free diet doesn't eliminate antibodies present during the following testing of the subject. So keep in mind that gluten is present in all grains, okay? Other studies also identify other grains as a major problem for people with gluten intolerance. Also, it's important to keep in mind that substitute grains like rice aren't properly studied to use as substitutes. So in conclusion, let's sum this up. You should be aware that celiac disease only affects 1% of the entire population. Also estimates that gluten intolerance is only present around 0.5 to 13% of the population. Although the conditions are rare, their association symptoms are very common and have a number of potential causes. So gluten intolerance is oftentimes easily misidentified, and the problem gets bigger due to the diet trends, which suggest that remove gluten from the lifestyle, as it can have adverse health effects. Do keep in mind, however, there is still very little research that claims removing gluten from the diet will result in health benefits for people who are not gluten sensitive. Regardless, if you want to be certain, it's best to consult your doctor and get properly diagnosed. Also, if you start experiencing one of the many sad, signs, you should get yourself checked immediately. Hopefully, you learned a lot from this masterclass. The signs mentioned here, were all based on published studies and are confirmed by a number of researchers and medical specialists. If you'd like a list of the publications, please let me know. I'll be happy to provide them for you. So I hope that helped. List any questions you have about this in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. That's how I get most of my material for my stuff. And I love answering your questions. If you haven't met before, my name's Jen Plike. I'm your holistic empowerment coach. I just give people, especially those with emotional eating and binge eating disorder, from that place of stuck, stuck where you're like, what's going on? I've tried everything, to do that 180 shift to authentic thriving, where we are not chasing diets. We are not relying on empty promise programs. I have had 20 years in the health, wellness, fitness, life coaching, and the 16 years in the educator industry. And I discovered through my own frustration and my own battle with my weight and my own battle with hating who I saw in the mirror and hindering every part of my life, and me at my lowest point, sick of running towards empty promise things and not giving my clients the results, not giving me the results. I went my own way and trying my own path, and that's how I developed the 180 Fit Body Mind Method, which is simply 8 pillars that are micro habits we have in our life that lead us to that lasting success. But we are fit not only in our body, but also in our mind and our emotions, because we know until we're fit in our body and emotions, we'll never be fit in our body, because this controls so much. It's like, we said the second brain, right? We have to get control of that. And so if you're someone who struggles with that, welcome to my channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow if you would like a holistic approach to weight loss and to sustainable, doable, realistic. I give you real truth, not just gimmick tricks, but I offer real results. And if you'd like to connect with me further, there's always ways in the show notes. So as you can download my app, Gojen 180 Fit, and there you have ways you can connect with me. You can find one of you free classes. You can sign up for master classes, courses I have, personal training, life coaching, nutrition coaching, group coaching, where accountabilities group. There's so many different things. I'm about to launch the September schedule on there, so it's about to come out live again if you're on August 31st, and so be on the lookout for that. But I'd love to connect with you. Would love to know your thoughts, your questions. As always, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and watching this. Until next time, try, be brave, be kind, live authentically, and always try to remember what you're just one habit away. Maybe the habit is trying to go gluten-free if you're having some of these issues. All right, talk to you next time.